SportsGrid college football today. It's not week 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. We are into the college football playoff and bowl season, and more importantly, it's Army-Navy Saturday. 3 o'clock, the midshipmen take on the cadets today, Joe. And if we do take a look at the spreads as they break down, almost a touchdown favorite today. 6.5 as a favorite towards Navy, and a total of 38.5. The pomp, the stance, the pageantry, it's all here today with a lot of bragging rights on the line. Go Army, beat Navy, beat Army, go Navy. You hear it all the time, Joe.
Yeah, 126 meeting. Navy won this game last year, 31-13. 6 of the last 9, though, have been dominated by Army.
Yeah.
And that's why in this rivalry game, I'm going to take the points. I do believe Army's defense can keep them in it. Again, some teams that they beat, Kansas State in particular, was a very good football team. They did go toe-to-toe with Tulane, a very good physical football team. I know that Navy beat Memphis and USF down the stretch, but I'll just go with Army in a rivalry game that matters. You're going to give me close to a touchdown, and I'll take the points.
Let's take a look at some of the props in this game, because we hit it in hour number 1. You always know the game's probably going to be close. It's going to be relatively lower scoring with that 38.5, and we get that, Joe. But look at the passing props in this game. Blake Horvath for Navy seems like an astronomical number, Joe. 109.5. Then you have a look at Helms at 64.5. For me, Navy does have the better wide receiver. Do we see it open up a little bit? Because I do think, Joe, we're going to get a 40 or 50-yard passing play in this game. That might not be enough to even get either one of these totals,
Donnie,
though.
I've gotten burned with this in the past. With thinking that, like, Army's going to come out and throw the football, and they have, but
just can't connect.
No, they get it, but sometimes, like, in some of these games, it's like far and few between. You need to have chunk plays consistently. Now, Navy and Blake Horvath are a pass-heavy offense more so than Army. Army's only averaging 78 passing yards per game. Navy's 136 through the air. They like to utilize more play action in their passing attack, so that's why you get more chunk plays out of Navy. But if you're going to win this game and you're Monken, you would think that maybe you implement a little bit more passing. 64 yards out of Helms. I probably would take that, Donnie. Could you? I mean, I probably would alt it to 80 right on his average, which is 78 yards, and hope that in this game you need a big play over the top.
Yeah, I don't know if we have with some of the books I'm looking at, some of these more fun prop bets.
Passing play?
Was it like, because I want to see, because I know sometimes Bet365 will have, like at least in the NFL, game has over 1.5 touchdown passes, 2.5 touchdown passes. It probably would be a half in this game. But if you're looking at the quarterbacks to throw, Joe, Blake Horvath, a half of a touchdown pass, which again means one, is plus 104. Helms to throw a touchdown, one of them, plus 280.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I know.
Plus 280. We can't roll out of the pocket and dump it off to the tight end.
I think this happened last year. It was one of the games, I forget what it was, and they were getting down inside the goal line, and he was throwing. And I said, come on, guy. And he could. It was horrible. Watching the kickers as well. In this game, the kickers
36-yarders.
Like, honestly, that's why if you're playing the over, you can't rely on field goals. You got to get chunk touchdowns, defensive turnovers. I'm looking now, team yards, Donnie.
Yeah.
Team yards. Army,
how much?
283.5.
That's all rushing. How about for Navy? What do they got?
332 and a hook.
I think the Navy's got a chance at that, Joe. I do.
Their average right now is
424. Yeah, I think they got a chance at it.
424. Navy.
You need a big play in there. You need 150-yard play.
Navy's
you got it.
Defense, to me, is not that great. I think they can be exposed. I think Army, I would probably take Army 283.5.
Like, if you look at Navy's schedule, Joe, all the way up and down, I think, like, if you put the 38.5 into, when I was checking it earlier, into perspective, like, every other game did go over. Like, there's only one game that stayed under 38 points, I believe, right?
Because their defense is terrible.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is, can Army actually do anything, though?
So they beat Air Force 34-31. They beat Temple 32-31. They beat FAU 42-30. They give up points. Army, I mean, for the most part, you look at some of the teams that they have played right now. Like I said, East Carolina, they lost 28-6. But to hold ECU to only 28 points is really good. They beat up on UAB 31-13, Charlotte 24-7. They only lost to Tulane 24-17.
Yeah.
So I think their defense, to me, I think I would take a shot on Army's yards and take a shot Army outright on the money line.
How about this, Joe? Let's take a look again, because you're getting some props that you aren't used to seeing here. And what I'm talking about is the player receiving yards. Heidenreich is 42.5, but I know we love the alt market here, and he's the wide receiver for Navy. He's a pretty good wide receiver, just doesn't get a lot of opportunities here. To get 100 yards today for Heidenreich, Joe, plus 750. 110 yards, that's 10-1. 50-plus yards is plus 122. Like, I look at this and I say to myself, 42.5, I think this is legitimate here. But I would go to 50 yards, Joe, for the plus money for him, plus 122. I think it makes sense because I think he's going to catch one deep ball. He's going to have one-on-one coverage all day, Joe. They're going to give him at least 2 targets on a deep route today.
Yeah, you might be right. I mean, but then why not take a shot on the Army guys?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, because the Army guys have to have huge value.
18.5 for Noah Short and 23.5 for Brady Anderson.
Well, Noah Short is the slot back. They utilize him in motion.
Slip him out in the flat.
Or a screen, you would think, right? Can they utilize a screen and he breaks it? What is Noah Short's number? 18.5?
18.5, yeah.
See, you're going to get me involved in Hellem's passing.
We're looking at passing options in Army Navy. I love it.
You're going to get me Hellem's in the passing attack. Could we all Hellem's to 100? What would that be? 20 yards over for Hellem's.
Let's see, alt passing yards. If he goes to 100 yards plus 290, Joe, you take him to 125 plus 580.
There's no
you
shot.
Take him to 150, 11-1.
No, he's got no shot to do that.
Has he done it all year, though? That's what we'd have to take a look at some of those stats.
I'll tell you right now.
What's his high for the year? Give me his high for the year.
You want his high for the year? Hellem's high was 125 against Tulane. He completed 70% of his passes. He only had 10 attempts.
But you know what,
The most attempts he's had in a game came against Kansas State, 11. He completed 7 of 11 for only 43 yards and a touchdown. Does have three touchdowns on the year, but he did throw 102 against Air Force, 125 against Tulane. Yeah. And other than that, he's been well under 100 yards.
But see, this is where my brain starts functioning, Joe, right? You take a look at the game itself. Like, Blake Corvez is 109.5. The expectations are Navy's going to win this game. So, we're not slugging it on the ground, Joe. If you're down a touchdown or more in the fourth quarter, you got to be throwing the football.
They don't.
They just give up? It's over?
No,
our
big
plays a counter?
Donnie, Army and Navy in this game, they are down 20 points. They'll throw maybe with 5 minutes left. You're dead to rights by then. I'm telling you. Now, if Army does open it up early, we'll get the money early. That's why I say 100. It's doable because he has 100. He's done it twice. And again, he's done it twice against pretty good competition. He did it against Tulane for $125, and they were in that game. The other game, again, 7 of 11 for only 43 yards against K-State, another solid Big 12 team. I like Army. Again, I would take Hellem's over the passing and hope that we get there.
Now, we spent some time talking on the passing. How about the rushing, Joe? Horvath, 109.5. Teska, 63.5. Short, 33.5. Hellem's, both quarterbacks, Joe, listed over 100 yards. So I'm going to tell you this. If you had to bet one of those quarterbacks to go over their rushing prop, who is it?
It would probably be Horvath. Again, he's athletic, but I like Teska. Again, 65. He's the dive back. He's the fullback. They obviously, dives and goal line type of situations. He did score in this matchup last year. Again, Teska to me does get opportunities. It's dirty yards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's doing all the dirty work in between the A and B gap. But if he breaks a big one, we can get it. He did break a big one last year in this matchup.
How about this, Joe? Horvath and Hellem's to each score a touchdown today. Parlay it together is a plus 127. If you're not parlaying it together, it's minus 230 and minus 190.
You're going to get me involved in this game, like heavily now. Yeah.
It's game of the day.
You're not going to bet it. I'm going to bet it.
Yes, I'll live through you.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. So here we go. You're going to get me looking at
anytime touchdown market. Game specials, Joe. One rushing touchdown in each quarter, plus 350. A tutty a quarter? Come on. We can't get a rush. That's not a bad one there.
No, it's not. If you're playing the over, it's not bad in any capacity.
One receiving touchdown to be scored in each quarter, 19-1. That should be 99 million to 1. How's that even possible?
Come on.
One touchdown receiving a quarter is only 19-1?
Yeah.
They might not even throw a touchdown the whole game.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Neither scheme scores a touchdown 65-1 today.
Yeah.
That's how we get down to business here. More fun stuff coming up. Joe and it's Donnie. It's Lisi. Lisi. Remember that name. massive budget down there in LSU, no doubt about it, Joe. But
Well, I just want to bring in, he's very close to Eddie O, too.
Yeah.
And Eddie O potentially had said he would, love a return. You bring that type of talent, another major recruiter.
Yes.
And Ed Ogeron back to Baton Rouge. You're going to have a fantastic NFL caliber type of staff, and they're going to hit the ground running week number 1 come 2026.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I think this is a very tough one. I haven't bet this because I still think it's that close. I would lean towards the sentiment of the voter body instead of the anointing of the new star. But at a certain point, the next 2 weeks, Drake May could be undeniable. It's really interesting market right for those two. And remember when Matthew Stafford wasn't going to play all year? Remember in August where he wasn't practicing and now he is number 2 for MVP. So go figure.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
You're legendary. I'm legendary. And both of these guys love each other. Right? Cam Ward, they do. They work out. They work out. Legendary.
Go ahead.
Cam Ward.
Yep.
Shador Sanders.
Yep.
250 plus and 2 tutties each.
Amazing. That's nuts.
Why? Why is it nuts?
Come on, that's crazy.
Why though?
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
We just can't quit Josh Allen. He's at a 16% chance. And then the Baltimore Ravens. Ooh, don't count Lamar out. The Indianapolis Colts and Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen. And then there's those Kansas City Chiefs. But I got to tell you, Joe, you see how we're going lower and lower on this list right here? I'm telling you, a nice little wild card down there. You plunk $100 back and get paid $1,429 back on Houston Texans.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Let's get a look at some of these early bowl games here right on our favorite show, Joe, that we do together, right? Is this our favorite show we do together?
It's the only show we
See that? So it must be our favorite show that we do together here. And how about this? Boise State and Washington, Joe. Boise State, no stranger, I should say, to having big surprises in bowl games here, knocking down bigger competition. Their biggest game, Joe, back in the day against Oklahoma, Bob Stoops embarrassed. They wanted Bob Stoops actually fired after that game. Remember that?
Ian Johnson, right?
Ian Johnson proposed after the game to his
Jared
cheerleader girlfriend.
Zabransky
With the hook and ladder.
Yeah, it was a great play. I mean, let me tell you, that's why we have expansion in the college football playoff for Cinderella. I think people forget about that, right?
Yeah.
You know, now they just want the marquee names, the blue bloods in the college football playoff.
We don't need Cinderella anymore.
Yeah, that's it. Well, Cinderella could be barking tonight in this game. I'll take the points with
8 o'clock.
Boise State, last LA Bowl. I don't expect a huge turnout. Obviously, for Washington, we'll see. Boise State, I do expect to travel. I like Madsen over his passing total today. Do feel, though, that Coleman for Washington and Damon Williams do potentially hit pay dirt.
I've been looking at the total,
Williams
Joe.
plus 105.
We getting points in this game? What do we got?
What do you mean?
Points 52.5, 53-ish.
Could be an under. I mean, it's typically trended to the under, Donnie. And again, I worry about Jed Fish in this game. I worry about the marquee players of Washington potentially checking out. That's always a concern in these games now. But again, I think Boise State would be happy to be there. And again, I think they're going to give it their best and potentially pull it out. I mean, they've won 3 straight down the stretch by an average margin of 15.3 points per game. You talk about Washington struggling this year with Jed Fish on the road or on a neutral field. And again, this is an environment where we saw 8.5s for much of the week, and now we're seeing 10.5s creep in. They do have the better talent, obviously, playing in the Big Ten, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to cover this line.
How about the Damon Williams for me, Joe? Longest rush. 17.5 yards. He's getting there. You see his. I mean, Washington you see all during the season for him. Yeah,
he has a huge speed advantage. It all depends. Can Boise State obviously step up and dictate the tempo? If they can't, they're not going to cover this line. If Damon Williams starts fast, and we've seen them throughout the regular season at times struggled in a road environment. They got smashed by Michigan. Struggled in a road environment against Maryland. They barely won 24-20. Their road wins are far and few between. And again, when you look at it, laying almost 2 touchdowns at 10.5, they have to dominate this game from start to finish. I just don't see it.
Let's get some quick previews of some games during the week, Joe, and that's the Veterans Bowl. Troy versus Jacksonville State. This line opened up here at a 3.5-point favorite for Troy. It's dipped a little bit down to 2.5, Joe, and a total now from 50.5 down to 46.5. More defensive in the Veterans Bowl, Joe. What are you seeing here?
Yeah, I like Troy. I mean, to me, Troy is a little more blue collar. Again, Jacksonville State has stepped up. They won their conference, game at the end of the regular season. But I like Troy. Troy laying less than a field goal in this type of matchup. I do feel we can get points. I think Troy could push a little bit of tempo. I think we can go through this total. So it will be Troy for me and the over.
How about a little Wednesday action, Joe? The Cure Bowl, ODU versus USF. If we take a look at Old Dominion coming into this game as 6.5-point underdogs, that's now dropped to 3.5 across the board, and a total, Joe, at 56.5, a 53.5 down. So back-to-back bowl games we're talking about, Joe, where the favorites numbers collapsing, and so is the total.
Yeah, both teams are 9-3. Old Dominion, a fantastic year. The Monarchs, is Byron Brown going to play in this game?
Yeah.
We have to see. Right now, I would say and suggest we're about 5 days out. Monitor the situation, props-wise and everything else. If he does, then they should be able to, cover this game. I probably would take the, ODU to me is live, plus the 3.5. 53.5, I think, is an under, just because I think USF wants to run it. I think Old Dominion wants to run it a little bit. I like Old Dominion plus the points in the under 53.
68 Ventures Bowl, Joe. This game also going to take place here on Wednesday. How about that? Louisiana versus Delaware in this game. This line, Joe, opened up as Louisiana as a favorite of 2.5. That's now up to 3.5 and 3s, depending where you're shopping in the marketplace. And how about this total, Joe? 55.5, the opening number. We're up to 60.5 in that game. Points expected, the public pushing it higher.
Yeah, so I would go, we always talk of Delaware.
Coach Bowden.
Yeah. But Delaware, I mean, you've bet on Delaware this year. You watched them on a couple of Friday night games.
Yep.
I would go with the movement of the over from 55.5 to 60.5. Delaware does have good quarterback play. They can push a little bit of tempo. Again, first bowl game at the FBS level. They're probably going to be geared up, but I would still lay the points in this matchup. But I would go with the line movement early on of over 60.5.
By the way, a team that most people don't know about, but in betting circles are getting a lot of support this year, that's Kennesaw State, Joe. They're going to line up in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. That's going to be a Friday football game. Kennesaw State. By the way, Friday football game, Joe? 11 a.m. start. Got to love to see that. Kennesaw State, Western Michigan. Western Michigan opened up as a favorite at 4.5. It's down now, as you see the graphic, to 3.5 at most outlets, and a total of 49.5. Kennesaw State, Western Michigan, Joe. What do we got?
Yeah, I mean, so Western, wins the MAC championship over Miami. Kennesaw State wins 19-14 or 19-15 over Jacksonville State. They get the 2.5 cover. I was on Kennesaw State when they played week number 2 against Wake Forest, catching 18.5. They're a blue-collar team. Again, play very good defense. So does Western Michigan. Western Michigan has one of the best rushing offenses in the MAC, averaging 189 yards per game. I like Western in this type of spot here, laying the 3.5. 49.5 to me, Donnie, is a little intriguing because both of these teams trend to the under. I think we could get contrarian here. Give me over 49.5.
Let's go to the Gasparilla Bowl. This also is going to be Friday and an afternoon game, Joe, 2:30. So you start to get these games piled up in the afternoon, some good stuff on a Friday before you really start to kick off with the college football playoff. You take a look at the lines in this game between Memphis and NC State. 6-point favorite here to 5.5, depending where you're shopping at for NC State. Total in this game, Joe, 57.5. NC State, Memphis here.
Yeah, so it's interesting. You look at NC State handed Virginia one of their 3 losses earlier in the year, and C.J. Bailey and that team are explosive, averaging well over 30 points per game. They picked up the victory at the end of the regular season over Bill Belichick, smashed their in-state rival. Memphis knocked off teams like Arkansas. They were thought of as potentially a group of 5 contender like Tulane and some of the others. The thing that I would take NC State and Durham plus the points, now with Silverfield moving on to Arkansas, but 57.5 to me is light in this matchup.
Bowl week, Joe, gets it started today on a Saturday. How about that? Nice little Saturday night game. And you have some midweek games, also some Friday afternoon football to sort of wet that whistle before the college football playoff begins. Now, we're going to talk about, Joe, coming up, the brackets. Our brackets here. Yeah, we'll get to some Heisman talk at this point right now. See where Joe's investing his money on the open market, but that's how we get down right on the SportsGrid Network. Joe and Donnie will be right back. massive budget down there in LSU, no doubt about it, Joe. But
Well, I just want to bring in, he's very close to Eddie O, too.
Yeah.
And Eddie O potentially had said he would, love a return. You bring that type of talent, another major recruiter.
Yes.
And Ed Ogeron back to Baton Rouge. You're going to have a fantastic NFL caliber type of staff, and they're going to hit the ground running week number 1 come 2026.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I think this is a very tough one. I haven't bet this because I still think it's that close. I would lean towards the sentiment of the voter body instead of the anointing of the new star. But at a certain point, the next 2 weeks, Drake May could be undeniable. It's really interesting market right for those two. And remember when Matthew Stafford wasn't going to play all year? Remember in August where he wasn't practicing and now he is number 2 for MVP. So go figure.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
You're legendary. I'm legendary. And both of these guys love each other. Right? Cam Ward, they do. They work out. They work out. Legendary.
Go ahead.
Cam Ward,
Yep.
Shador Sanders,
Yep.
250 plus and 2 tutties each.
Amazing. That's nuts.
What? Why is it nuts?
Come on, that's crazy.
Why though?
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
We just can't quit Josh Allen. He's at a 16% chance. And then the Baltimore Ravens. Ooh, don't count Lamar out. The Indianapolis Colts and Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen. And then there's those Kansas City Chiefs. But I got to tell you, Joe, you see how we're going lower and lower on this list right here? I'm telling you, a nice little wild card down there. You plunk $100 back and get paid $1,429 back on Houston Texans.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid College Football Today on a Saturday. We do it live, people. Show. It's Donnie. And here we go. College football playoff. It is set. We're talking about bowl games here. Who's going to win? Who's going to lose? Got a bowl game today, Joe. But the big deal starts this next coming week. And your boy DRS said at the beginning of the season, it was always Miami getting in, Joe. Never wavered on my Miami pick here on the set. Never. I'm here. Right. LSU's out. That's where we start.
All right. Is that where you start?
We are the committee. Yeah, and I put Miami in.
I told you Notre Dame had no shot to get in. No shot.
You were wrong.
Yeah,
though.
I was dead on. Dead on.
Look at the brackets.
Is this your bracket or is this?
No, this is it is my bracket because I am the commissioner. It's the official bracket of the college football playoff that they're getting in. So let's start here, Joe. You have James Madison in Oregon, Tulane and Ole Miss. If we take out James Madison and Tulane, who are we putting in? Notre Dame and Texas. That would be fantastic, but that's not going to happen. So let me just start with those two teams here. We got 2 Group of 5 teams in, Tulane and JMU, 11 and 12. You know these 2 teams, Joe. Who's the better team of those G5s? Is it JMU or is it Tulane? Who would you back in that?
It's Jake Retzlaff and Tulane. And again, catching 17.5 in a rematch against Ole Miss, I think they actually could potentially cover that line. Call me crazy. Now, they haven't beaten Ole Miss since 1988. They've lost 14 straight. Obviously, they haven't played every year. The last 4 dating back to like 2012. Ole Miss has won by 32.2 points per game. But again, when you look at what John Summerall and this team have built in the interior, they are physical. Now, they didn't show that in the last game on September 20th against Ole Miss. They just couldn't contain Trinidad Chambliss, couldn't contain the speed of Ole Miss. But knowing what they did wrong, and now obviously with Lane Kiffin not being there, having Charlie Weiss and Pete Golden, which is still, I understand coordinators, but it's still an interim staff. It's not going to be done the same way that Lane did it. I lean to Tulane to cover that. And again, Retzlaff is a quarterback that transferred in. He's mobile, came from BYU. He had BYU undefeated. I think they could surprise some people. Can they pull off the victory? Most likely not. But I think if we're talking JMU and Tulane, I would give a better chance to Tulane than JMU in this matchup. Yeah,
again, the football, it's going to be a lot of fun. Starts up next week. We'll certainly get into it much more next week as well. But also, Joe, when you take a look at the way the playoffs are structured, sometimes because we can have perfection. We never get it. I love the fact that the first-round games, Joe, are played on their home site. Like Oregon gets a home game. Oklahoma gets a home game. Ole Miss and A&M. Well-deserved for all these teams. But the one thing I don't understand, Joe, is if you're in the top 4, yes, you get a bye. But then you go on the road and you play a stupid bowl game. Like These games, Joe, maybe you could sell me maybe on the semifinals, being at like a distant location in the finals as well. But why are we doing quarterfinals, semifinals, and national championship all at different locations? Why can't they be on campus? You don't think Georgia at home between the hedges, Ohio State in the shoe freezing cold, Indiana getting a playoff home game, Texas Tech, great home field advantage.
Well, Donnie, yeah, it would be great, but we
don't need the bowl games here.
You're doing the bowl games. What's the problem with the bowl games?
You're asking your fan base, Joe, right? Let's just say you're a Texas Tech fan. I got to buy a ticket to a bowl game. Then I got to buy another ticket on the road. And then I got to buy another ticket in the national championship game. Look, we're away. How am I going to fly to all these places?
No
hotels?
Tickets. You ain't buying no tickets.
Who isn't?
You're not going to these games.
I'm a fan. Of course I'm not. There's a fan. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, but if you were a fan, I thought you were a fan of the Hurricanes. You're not anymore.
They told me. I told them to donate my tickets.
Yeah, so I get it. But the fans travel. They have money, believe it or not. It's amazing. Somebody's got money.
In this economy,
they have money. I don't know. See what Kelsey says about the economy. All right, go on there.
22% chance bad economy.
There you go. So again, the bowl games bring added value to these. They do. They bring added value.
Oh, like L.A., like the Rose Bowl needs it. And by the way, Joe, if the Rose Bowl, talking about UCLA not playing in the Rose Bowl anymore, and that goes away, do we even need a Rose Bowl at SoFi? The Rose Bowl at SoFi, fantastic. That's got to go away.
That would be, you're killing every little piece of tradition and pageantry in college football is gone.
Gone.
This is it. It's the new era. You like this. I don't.
Let me ask you a question, though, Joe. 8-9 Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And not even like breaking down the game itself. The rumors that come now are always crazy. And rumors you get away with in college football because the pros, they got beat writers there. Oh, yeah, this guy didn't practice today. Any belief on Ty Simpson, Joe, that he's banged up, his back is terrible, he can't function right now? No. Why is that circulating? Who started that?
Well, again, it's because of a pitiful performance against top-ranked Georgia. Again, it's a rematch. They didn't cover as a 6.5-point home favorite against Oklahoma. They lost the game outright just in late November. I like Oklahoma. Big picture.
You've always liked Oklahoma.
But listen, everybody talks about defense. Defense is what allowed Notre Dame to play in the national championship last year. Their quarterback is, to me, a veteran and in a big spot. I believe in John Mateer. I think they're going to strike the minor upset again. Kalen DeBoer doesn't have an answer for Venables in back-to-back meetings, and I think they step up, surprise some people.
Like, if we're just going by seedings moving forward, Joe, Oregon's going to take on Texas Tech. Oklahoma's going to take on Indiana. Ole Miss is going to take on Georgia. A&M's going to take on Ohio State. That will be fantastic either way. But, Joe, we're going to give the people what all brackets are next. And who advances? Find out next. Massive budget down there in LSU, no doubt about it, Joe. But
I just want to bring in, he's very close to Eddie O, too.
Yeah.
And Eddie O potentially had said he would, love a return. You bring that type of talent, another major recruiter.
Yes.
And Ed Ogeron back to Baton Rouge. You're going to have a fantastic NFL caliber type of staff, and they're going to hit the ground running week number 1 come 2026.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I think this is a very tough one. I haven't bet this because I still think it's that close. I would lean towards the sentiment of the voter body instead of the anointing of the new star. But at a certain point, the next 2 weeks, Drake May could be undeniable. It's really interesting market right for those two. And remember when Matthew Stafford wasn't going to play all year? Remember in August where he wasn't practicing? And now he was number 2 for MVP. So go figure.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
You're legendary. I'm legendary. And both of these guys love each other. Right? Cam Ward, they do. They work out. They work out. Legendary.
Go ahead.
Cam Ward.
Yep.
Shador Sanders.
Yep.
250 plus and 2 tutties each.
Amazing. That's nuts.
What? Why is it nuts?
Come on, that's crazy.
Why, though?
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
We just can't quit Josh Allen. He's at a 16% chance. And then the Baltimore Ravens. Ooh, don't count Lamar out. The Indianapolis Colts and Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen. And then there's those Kansas City Chiefs. But I got to tell you, Joe, you see how we're going lower and lower on this list right here? I'm telling you, a nice little wild card down there. You plunk $100 back and get paid $1,429 back on Houston Texans.
The Early Line Only on SportsGrid.
And away we go here. College football playoff time. Let's get to it, Joe, because we don't have any college football games played out on the field, but we do know exactly who's playing in the college football playoff. Myself, there we go, and Joe Lisi over there, the CFP anti-committee, which means we didn't get to set these, but I told you Miami would be in the college football playoff at the start of the year. I told you that. Joe thought LSU would be in there. They are not there, but let's hear it out, Joe, because we're going to go game by game, starting with your bracket, and I'm going to start you first here. James Madison and Oregon. Spread and also who advances in this game for you?
I think it's Oregon, spread and advances. I just think they're a little bit much more physical than James Madison. I don't think James Madison can keep up with the speed. I think Dante Moore potentially has a huge day. Dan Lanning is a fantastic game planner, and going into Eugene is a very difficult animal to go in there and just beat up on Oregon. That rarely happens. Again, I think it's all Oregon. I like the speed. Again, am I going to lay the 21.5? It's not one of the games that I'm diving into.
How do you approach it, though, Joe? You rather take a first half because you know they're going to gas them up and then maybe take their foot off the gas pedal?
I don't know if you see, but again, do you take the foot off the gas, especially don't you want your players sharp?
I think you technically do.
I like the over here. I like the over in the matchup.
If Joe, if I thought that was like, let's just say that was the championship game, Oregon Jam, you put 60 on them, you put 60 on them, you have fun. That's the way you do it. Like we've seen LSU do that with Joe Burrow. Like just keep throwing touchdown passes and see how many points you can rack up. But I do think there is something to it. And I'm not saying, because we'll get to my bracket in a second, but 22 points, I would take it and say, Oregon was going to be up 17 at the break, and then I get covered and get out of it.
First half, again, I would take a first half total because if you think Oregon's going to throttle them like I do, then obviously that first half total, which is basically probably going to be like, 30.5?
Yeah.
You could probably get that maybe within one quarter. You might be able to get 28 points in the first quarter alone against James Madison. James Madison, very good defensively, but we'll see. I like Oregon in the match.
So Oregon advances against Texas Tech. We'll get to that game in a second. Alabama, slight favorite here, Joe. -1.5 over Oklahoma on the road here. 8-9 matchup. Who wins that?
I like Oklahoma. I'm calling for the minor upset again. I just think their defense is much better than Alabama. We saw Alabama struggle with Georgia, a physical team. I'm not sold on Ty Simpson in the passing attack. No running attack. It's one of the worst rushing attacks in Alabama history, dating back to pre-Nick Saban. They're only averaging 3.7 rushing yards per game, 127 rushing yards per game as well. That's a problem, especially going up against a team that forces you into long third downs. And I'll just say this. Oklahoma has been basically playing playoff football since the month of November. Road wins against Tennessee and Alabama in their building. That's something you can't take away from Venables. I like OU.
Oklahoma advances there. They'll take on Indiana in Joe's bracket. Tulane and Ole Miss, what seems like a blowout right here. Do we have enough from some rolling the boys to at least stick around in this game, Joe?
Yeah, I'm taking the points with Tulane. Does that necessarily mean they strike the upset? No. So for the sake of the bracket, I do pick Ole Miss to potentially win a closer game than people think. But I would take the points with Tulane and Retzlaff, veteran experience. And I just think that team has something. When you lose to a team so many times, you're playing with house money. I think they roll the dice.
If we take a look at Miami and Texas A&M, that final first-round game played at Texas A&M, 11 a.m. local start, which should be a lot of fun to watch that one play out. Look at Miami getting 3.5 points from A&M in this game, Joe. Number 10 versus number 7. Who advances?
Yeah, I think it's A&M. They played 2 years ago. Miami won that game 48-33 in South Beach, but this is clearly a different team. A&M has one of the best third down defenses in college football. For much of the year, it was around 22%, Donnie. Shut down huge explosive offenses in the conference. The other factor is outside of Carson Beck, because he's played in the SEC. It's 110,000 fans. Miami didn't leave the state of Miami, Florida, since November. They have 4 road games. They're 3-1 on the road or on a neutral field. Kyle Field's going to be rocking. I think it's all A&M. I think they advance.
By the way, Joe, I saw earlier, too, that, typical temperatures at this time of year for A&M, about 65 degrees, supposed to be 80 degrees at kickoff, which could help Miami, but we'll see. That crowd is going to be rocking. That's why you have home field advantage. Use it to your advantage. Let's go over the quarterfinal rounds as they set up for you, Joe. James Madison loses, Oregon wins. Oregon, Texas Tech from Texas.
So this was 2 years ago. I was hanging out with Kevin in AC when we were doing the Sunday show together.
I remember it.
And Tyler Shuck cost me.
Wow.
Tyler Shuck, when he was playing for Texas Tech, cost me against Oregon. I was catching 6.5.
Yeah.
They were down 3. He threw a pick 6 with 30 seconds left.
Were you at Wahlburgers watching it?
No, it was in the middle of the book in the AC. With 20 seconds left. And I blamed it on Sam because he said, you got this. And that's basically how it went down. But I'll say this. Defense travels. 68 rushing yards per game allowed and 2.7 yards per rush. I'll take Texas Tech in this matchup. Not going to be easy. You give the edge to Lanning over Joey McGuire because of playoff experience. But I'm going to take the best defense, and to me, that's Tech. I think they do advance.
Tech advances into the semifinals in Joe's pool here. Take a look at this one, the quarterfinal matchup here, Joe. Oklahoma and Indiana, number 1 versus number 8. Does Indiana get the nod or defense?
I tell you what, I'm going to call for the upset.
Oh, you
Indiana
didn't know that.
Goes down.
No.
The ruby slipper falls off a curtain.
Put the cigarette out.
Oklahoma,
wow.
I think if they get through Alabama, I think they knock off Indiana. I like OU big picture. I know a lot of people don't. I believe in Venables. I like the physicality. And people are forgetting this. John Mateer, an extra 2 weeks to allow that thumb to heal. Maybe he wasn't 100%, throughout the regular season. Now with an extra 2 weeks of prep, I like Mateer in this matchup.
Ole Miss, Georgia, Joe, in a quarterfinal battle. Now, answer 2 questions on this one. Number 1, who do you think is going to win? And number 2, is it a big difference that if Lane Kiffin was there now that he's not there?
Yes, I think it's a huge difference.
Okay.
And Georgia, if you watch the second half, they trailed 21-16 against Ole Miss. Poured it on. They won by 8, got the cover. But the way they contained Trinidad Chambliss in that offense, at least for the most part, they shut them down. They weren't getting abused as they were in the first. I think that carries through. Without Lane there, I think that's a huge disadvantage to Ole Miss. I think they actually get smashed if they meet up
How
again.
about that? Georgia moves on, Joe. Now we get to your bracket here. Texas A&M, you have beating Miami. Texas A&M and Ohio State in the quarterfinal, Joe. Who advances through there in your pool?
My heart says A&M.
Wow.
But I would probably, if they're significant dogs, I would probably take them. If they're catching more than 5, I would take A&M. But probably Ohio State would get through. For the sake of the bracket, I'll give it to Ohio State. But I want to reassess that. I want to see how A&M plays. If they dominate Miami, all bets are off. I like Elko as a dog, but I would, for the sake of the bracket, we'll say OU.
Going to be fun. Semifinal action, Joe. Here we go. How about this? Texas Tech going to take on Oklahoma in your book. 4 versus 8. Who moves on to the national title game?
Oklahoma.
Wow. Defense all the way through.
So I believe.
Parlayed all these, roll that money over, Joe.
I honestly believe if OU gets through Alabama, they would knock off Indiana. They're not going to fear Texas Tech. Back in the Big 12 days when they played there and dominated them for how many years, right?
Joey McGuire.
I would be betting Oklahoma in that. I'm going to shock everybody, but that's what I pick.
Georgia, Ohio State. Who moves forward to the national championship?
I think Georgia's the best team in this bracket.
So Georgia for you is going to line up against Oklahoma in the national championship
and
game.
That's where Oklahoma would get exposed by a much better offense and a physical interior line on both sides. Georgia, to me, is the most complete team in this bracket. It's not Ohio State. It is Georgia. The last month of the regular season, I think they've showed that from a defensive perspective. I'm rolling with the Bulldogs, and I'm rolling with OU to surprise everybody.
Take a look at those Kalshi market shows where they sit today. Ohio State with a 30% chance to win the championship. If you put $100 down, it pays back $334. Those Georgia Bulldogs at 17%, Joe, $100 wager pays back $589. We talked about this for a couple weeks. If you bought Georgia a few weeks ago, that price point was even better. Talking about that 9-1, 10-1. It's starting to drip down now. Oregon listed at an 11% number, Joe. $100 down on them, $589 and so forth. If you want to go to your Oklahoma squad, Joe, $100 down, $3,334.
And some markets do have, like the matchup, Georgia over OU, that's 65 to 1.
65 to 1 matchup. Now, you just saw Joe Lisi's bracket right here. Now, get the correct bracket on the opposite side of this commercial break, because your boy DRS tells you exactly who's winning this. Massive budget down there in LSU, no doubt about it, Joe. But
I just want to bring in, he's very close to Eddie O, too.
Yeah.
And Eddie O potentially had said he would, love a return. You bring that type of talent, another major recruiter.
Yes.
And Ed Ogeron back to Baton Rouge. You're going to have a fantastic NFL caliber type of staff, and they're going to hit the ground running week number 1 come 2026.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I think this is a very tough one. I haven't bet this because I still think it's that close. I would lean towards the sentiment of the voter body instead of the anointing of the new star. But at a certain point, the next 2 weeks, Drake May could be undeniable. It's really interesting market right for those two. And remember when Matthew Stafford wasn't going to play all year? Remember in August where he wasn't practicing? And now he is number 2 for MVP. So go figure.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
You're legendary. I'm legendary. And both of these guys love each other. Right? Cam Ward, they do. They work out. They work out. Legendary.
Go ahead.
Cam Ward.
Yep.
Shador Sanders.
Yep.
250 plus and 2 tutties each.
Amazing. That's nuts.
What? Why is it nuts?
Come on, that's crazy.
Why, though?
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
We just can't quit Josh Allen. He's at a 16% chance. And then the Baltimore Ravens. Ooh, don't count Lamar out. The Indianapolis Colts and Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen. And then there's those Kansas City Chiefs. But I got to tell you, Joe, you see how we're going lower and lower on this list right here? I'm telling you, a nice little wild card down there. You plunk $100 back and get paid $1,429 back on the Houston Texans.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Doing our own bracketology here. It's how we get down on the Sports Grid Network. It's Joe Lisi, Donnie Rightside here. College football today, right here on a Saturday, Joe. Got a bowl game a little bit later tonight at 8 o'clock, Army-Navy in the afternoon. But again, big fish to fry next week as the college football player kicks off. And there's going to be some anger on the set next week, Joe.
Why?
I don't know. I just feel like it. You know what I mean? Just felt good to say at that point right now.
I want to see. I want to see the voice of reason bracket.
Yeah, you ready for it?
All
see, I think I'm coming from an angle here, Joe, that you should have actually taken here as we get through it. So my first round matchup.
Well, I'm just curious.
You'll see.
Why?
No, because we're not going to spoil. We're not going to spoil the bit right here as we go. JMU, Oregon, smash job, hammer job. Oregon. The way I play that game, Joe, as I told you, first half, we're not messing around. Dan Lanning, we ain't playing for clicks in this game. Smoke them. Walk off in the second half, get to your next round game. They're going to take on Texas Tech. Game number 2 for me, Joe, Alabama and Oklahoma. And unless, once again, if I have a quarterback that's back is so hurt he can't walk around right now, Ty Simpson, I'm taking the team that I do think can actually move the football. Give me Bama over Oklahoma. What do you think about that one?
You just said you have a quarterback that can't walk in.
But I think it's going to be. You ever see like the wrestling meme with Kevin Nash? He has the broken leg, flips over the seat, and just stands up out of nowhere. Like that's what's going to happen.
So you think Bama's going to run the football?
Bama's going to win. Jan Miller.
Mr.
Miyagi?
The chandelier?
Mr. Miyagi warming him up.
Jan Miller has 400 rushing yards on the year. And
might have 400 in this game. How about that, Joe? All over OU. Brett Venables isn't ready for this. John Mateer's not ready for this game.
Okay.
Alabama, I'm taking pedigree, Joe. Pedigree over promise.
What pedigree?
Oklahoma, no pedigree, man. We're not Barry Switzer. That's long distance. Jason White, we talked about. The kids don't even know who Jason White was.
Okay.
And by the way, Miami would have beat this tar out of that team in the Orange Bowl back in the day, not Florida State.
All right, let's hear it.
Let's keep moving down the list. Tulane and Ole Miss. No question here. Pete Golding, rock star down there, Joe. Gets the big victory over Tulane. Playoff victory, something Lane Kiffin could never do there.
Okay.
Lane could never get a playoff win down there.
All right, so then there you go. So Pete Golding gets the win. All right, we're in agreement there. Go ahead.
Miami, Texas A&M.
Yeah,
that's
I know
Miami.
where you're going. Yeah.
That's Malachi Tony over there.
Right.
Better team, hotter team coming in Miami. Hotter team.
Why? Because A&M lost their last regular season game.
Look, I'm just telling you.
Hotter team. All right.
They're stewing, Joe. A&M's on the sideline. They're not sure they can win another game ever again. They lost their last game.
There you go. I disagree, but we'll see. We'll see if Carson Beck steps up.
Mm-hmm.
He has had some pitiful road performances this year. He didn't play well against SMU, but we'll see. We'll see.
I'm telling you.
All right.
Big Chess Mario coaches. No better big game coach than Big Chess Mario.
Well, okay.
Done deal.
All right. Forget. So you have Miami squaring off against who?
No,
Ohio State.
You're going the wrong way at this point right now. Like, we got to get back to the top of the standings. Oregon, Texas A&M, great football game. The only thing I wish, though, Texas Tech was at home. But Texas Tech's defense, they win this game against Oregon. They win this game against Oregon,
so we're
Joe.
in agreement.
Yep, we're in agreement.
Right,
Let's move it down. Now, we're not in agreement because Oklahoma's going to get beat by Alabama. Let me see. Let me double check. Okay, we got Indiana winning this game because I was actually going to get real excited right now just to spite you and put Alabama past Indiana at this point. I was going to do it, Joe. What do you think about that?
I mean, we'll see.
Big Sig? Come on.
We'll see. Kirk Cignetti has proven he's one of the best head coaches in college football to get this team to back-to-back college football playoff appearances. And in year number 2, to be the number 1 seed.
It's amazing.
It's incredible. It's
to do that at Indiana is amazing.
$1.
It'd be like honestly, what's the equivalent, Joe? Like Kansas is the dominant team right now? Like what he did at Indiana? Never would have saw this coming.
No. And not to go back to Penn State, but that's why they fired James Franklin.
Yes.
Because when you have a guy in your conference that took 2 transfer quarterbacks off the street, implemented them into the team, and they won.
Yeah.
And got to the college at Indiana.
Yeah.
But you can't get one quarterback that could play at Penn State. That's why Franklin got fired.
No, Franklin got fired because he took 5-star quarterbacks and turned them into 1-star athletes. Like, that's why he's out right now, and he's sitting at Virginia Tech. So next game up, Joe, Ole Miss and Georgia. For me, it's simple. I'm with you. I think Georgia's one of the best teams in the country. Georgia moves on and knocks off Ole Miss.
All right.
And then Texas A&M and/or Miami, which I have Miami going there, Joe. No more bias at this point. I think Ohio State's the better football team. I think they move on, which then sets up the semifinals, Joe. Texas Tech, Indiana. Texas Tech's in the championship game.
All right.
Tech's going there, blazing, throwing tortillas all over the place.
All right. I wouldn't shock me if that is the matchup. I would pick Tech over Indiana. I think their defense, they can run sideline to sideline. Rodriguez and that front seven are as mean as anybody. And Joey McGuire and that offense are balanced with Dickey in the rushing attack. They have Caleb Douglas. They have Coy Eakin. They have multiple weapons that they could utilize. You would give the quarterback advantage, obviously, Mendoza over Morton, but Morton's experienced.
So then, Joe, we take a look at Georgia and Ohio State.
Let me hear this.
I got the SEC moving forward. I got Georgia moving forward there.
Go ahead.
Look at the final we got set up, Joe. Tech, Georgia.
That would be probably I would have picked that 2 years ago, and it was a little too soon.
Nobody beats Georgia, Joe, right? Except Texas Tech. You're national champions. I can't believe you didn't back Texas Tech. Like, I'm actually disappointed.
Why?
Like, you didn't see who I picked. I didn't know who you were going to pick. I'm shocked you don't have Texas Tech knocking this thing down.
I'll tell you why. I love Texas Tech defensively. The one concern that I have, and he's experienced, I worry about Baron Morton against elite competition.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking the Big 12. But I want to see Baron Morton do it against SEC caliber defenses. If he slices and dices Georgia, should he get that opportunity, I will give all the credit in the world to Joey McGuire and that team. I do feel up until this point, the Achilles heel and weakness of Tech is still Baron Morton. Now, he is as experienced, and the one game they lost with Will Hammond came out when Morton was hurt. But the throws that he makes, you're not going to be able to do against the likes of Ohio State, Georgia, some of the better defenses. I don't think he could do it, believe it or not, if they match up against Oklahoma. And that's why I give the edge to Oklahoma. I'm picking Oklahoma, obviously, over Bama, but if they match up with Tech, I would give them that edge.
Predictive markets right now, Joe. $100 wager on Texas Tech at 10% pays you back $1,000 in this one.
It's $100 on OU would pay back, what, 5 Gs?
$100 on OU. Let's get those numbers here. They are listed, Joe, at a 3% number. Going to pay you back $3,334 there,
and you could obviously sell out if they get the victory over Bama. They are going to explode. They'll probably be 20%, you're going to make money on it.
That's the fun part about looking at some of those future wagers, where the thing that we always try to preach, Joe, is when you take, let's just say, hey, I'm going to bet Texas Tech. They don't need to win the championship in these markets here. You get Texas Tech into the final, you made a pretty good bank, and then maybe you can sit on that and try to ride it out and win that full, extra money, or you just cash out at any time you can be. Ohio State right now, Joe, is the favorite in the clubhouse at a 30% chance. Indiana 22%, Georgia 17%, 11 Oregon. The best part about it, Joe, it gets underway next weekend, and away we go, finding ourselves a national champion in college football. We're going to put a pretty bow in the show coming up next, so make sure you stick around after this short commercial break. We'll be right back. Massive budget down there in LSU, no doubt about it, Joe. But
well, I just want to bring in, he's very close to Eddie O, too.
Yeah.
And Eddie O potentially had said he would, love a return. You bring that type of talent, another major recruiter. And Ed Ogeron back to Baton Rouge. You're going to have a fantastic NFL caliber type of staff, and they're going to hit the ground running week number 1 come 2026.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I think this is a very tough one. I haven't bet this because I still think it's that close. I would lean towards the sentiment of the voter body instead of the anointing of the new star. But at a certain point, the next 2 weeks, Drake May could be undeniable. It's really interesting market right for those two. And remember when Matthew Stafford wasn't going to play all year? Remember in August where he wasn't practicing and now he was number 2 for MVP. So go figure.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
You're legendary. I'm legendary. And both of these guys love each other. Right? Cam Ward, they do. They work out. They work out. Legendary.
Go ahead.
Cam Ward.
Yep.
Shador Sanders.
Yep.
250 plus and 2 tutties each.
Amazing. That's nuts.
What? Why is it nuts?
Come on, that's crazy.
Why, though?
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
We just can't quit Josh Allen. He's at a 16% chance. And then the Baltimore Ravens. Ooh, don't count Lamar out. The Indianapolis Colts and Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen. And then there's those Kansas City Chiefs. But I got to tell you, Joe, you see how we're going lower and lower on this list right here? I'm telling you, a nice little wild card down there. You plunk $100 back and get paid $1,429 back on Houston Texans.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
By the way, it's freezing cold here in the Northeast, Joe. You know what I mean? Freezing cold in the studio, which I love. Keeps me bright, keeps me ready. I mean, Joe had too many wine last night. You get the cold weather in here, sort of wakes you up, sort of gets you invigorated. But the reason I talk about that is week 0, it was hot outside. Now it's cold outside. But you take a look now, next Saturday, we are going to have one of the college football playoff games down, Joe, which we're not going to be able to talk about except recapping. So we figured we'd give the public a little bit of a glimpse of what we're anticipating a week ahead of time. Alabama's going to take on Oklahoma. I know you like Oklahoma in this matchup. I like Alabama. It's -1.5. You take a look at the total of this game, 40.5, Joe. Come on,
so
we can get that.
So the total in the last game they played, I believe it was 47.5, and they had a ton of points in the first half, and it wound up 24-21.
Yeah.
In this type of matchup, I think both coaches played a little close. I lean to the under. I don't love it, but I would take a shot. And I love OU in the game. I'm betting the 1.5, and I'm taking them on the money line with the plus money. But for me, I would take a shot on Mateer. I just think Mateer in this spot is going to have to make some plays over the top, playing at home. We've seen him make big plays in wins over Missouri, wins over Tennessee. Obviously, that win over LSU, he gets the big touchdown pass. He has stepped up in critical spots. He's a veteran. And again, the extra week or 2 of prep, meaning to heal that thumb, I think he could blow through. I think you're going to get a depreciated number on Mateer because of how good statistically Bama's secondary is. But I think Mateer could blow through that total.
Like, I think you're right about one thing on this, too, because you take a look at, like, correlated markets, right? And I say to myself, like, John Mateer's listed, Joe, at 200.5 as his passing yards. They can lose that football game. He can throw for it. But I'm not so sure Mateer can throw for 140 yards and beat Alabama in this game. So if I say to myself, if I like Oklahoma, I'm just going to bet Mateer 200.5.
Yeah.
If he hits it, they win it. If he doesn't, he can still do that, and they can lose that game.
Yeah, I mean, you take a long-term approach.
Yeah.
Like for people that like OU like I do, you would go on the predictive market and take the shot with them at 3% because they knock off Alabama. The perception is going to be, wow, we didn't see that coming. Yeah. And now all of a sudden you'll get an overreaction and they'll drive the price out, people that missed out on OU. I still think their defense is good enough to carry them over the likes of Indiana and some of the others that they're going to have to play. So we'll see.
By the way, how does this lose, Joe? You don't have to double up wide receivers. You take both two wide receivers at plus money, get one of them, it's great. Get two of them, it's awesome. Satania plus 115 for OU. Your boy Jeremy Bernard plus 150 for Oklahoma. How does one of those guys not score? Well, one of them's got to score, right?
Well, you said that, but Bernard was kept in check against Georgia. I mean, Bernard didn't even get 50 yards in the game. How about Ryan Williams was held basically?
Did Jeremy score last week? I think he did, though, didn't he?
He did score. He might have.
Yeah,
he did. He did. He scored with like 8 minutes left.
Yeah.
Like, or third quarter when he cut it to like.
He was their first touchdown. Well, they only scored one touchdown, but he was that touchdown.
They were down 21-0.
It saved their playoff lives when he scored.
Yeah. But again, yardage-wise, he's been contained. Again, the back end of Oklahoma is good too, and we saw LSU struggle. Again with the interceptions. Van Buren in the red zone. I'm just not sold on Alabama. I think they have a psychological issue now. Like after getting knocked around by Georgia, do they really believe they're an elite football team? I'm not so sure.
Army-Navy today, Joe. 3 o'clock start. Absolutely love it. 3.5 at the opening number, up to 6.5 here as a favorite for Navy. The total, Joe, sticking at 38.5 across the board. I'm going contrarian, which means I'm going to take the 39 points. And then when it's 6-3 at the half, I'm like, yep, I'm an idiot at this point right now.
What do you mean contrarian? Everybody's on the under. Everybody loves the under.
That's why I'm taking the over.
Oh, you're taking the over?
We're going over, Joe. You have. Hold on. Where's your card? Put Lisi's card up there on the screen for me. Yeah. You're so shocked I'm taking the over. I want to see where your card's at.
I'm on Army.
Look at that.
I'm on the over too. But
what do you mean?
I'm always on overs.
Come on, man. I was shocked that I was going to take the over, and then you took the over. 6-3 at the half, I'm going to say I'm going to be upset with myself for taking the over. Joe, I need explosives. I need a first-half touchdown pass. I need a 55. I need Hyde and Reich out here.
All right,
Come on, Hyde.
So
Eli.
Noah Smart, the slot back and scat back, I think he could score. I think he's plus 170 on multiple books. When you look at Teska, he's a minus money. He's minus 170. He scored in this game last year. Also had a big run. But I like the yardage for Teska. I do, and you're going to get me involved on this Helms passing now. I'm going to alt this up to hopefully 100 yards, and hopefully the kid have one chunk play. The problem is, can Noah Smart, the running back, could they put him on a wheel route and maybe he gets through his 18.5 receiving total?
There's no doubt in my mind Hyde and Reich's getting 42.5, Joe. That feels like an alt. Could we have a 100-yard receiver in this game?
Yeah,
he's going to be on an island one-on-one the entire game.
You're not pulling me into this. I'm going on
that
Army's
needs to be
pass.
your anchor leg for everything.
Army outright. Army outright.
See what happens today in this game. Fantastic stuff once again. A Saturday with the boys here right on the SportsGrid Network. Next week, it's playoff action. Next week, we'll be talking about how Alabama beat Oklahoma next Saturday, and Joe's going to absolutely love it. For Donnie and Joe, thanks for tuning in here. We'll see you bright and early next Saturday for more college football.
It'll be interesting to see in that Big 12, we keep talking about it, with Houston, with Iowa State, with Kansas, with BYU. They're going to be battle-tested, but so is the rest of that league. And, man, that is going to be fun to watch.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
There are a million ways to make money on this. There really is, right? Like I sit back, we've given you a couple of ours that we've given you. I think they're all going to win, essentially. The gold one, the Google Views one. The only one I might not win, Cam, that I gave people was, will the U.S. government announce that aliens exist in 2026?
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Super Bowl MVP, multiple Super Bowl chances there, Super Bowl championship as they got it. Nick Sirianni said on the radio, no chance that Jalen Hurts is going to be benched. But by the way, Jalen Hurts didn't play the last 3 games. I think the Eagles would be 3-0 in those games, though. Just saying, Joe.
Oh, wow. How the mighty have fallen. When the Eagles fans turn on their quarterback, it's getting ugly in Philly, folks.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on Sports.